Shavita.
We're the two Pilates Chicks. And that was our theme music. I think it was probably really good.
Fantastic.
And we are at Season 5, Episode 13.
Yes.
And we're talking about posture and pain in their relationship.
Yes. And their relationship...
Wait for it.
The big news that probably would shock so many people that are not teachers, there's no real correlation between posture and pain.
Nope. There's no scientific proof that your posture or having bad posture, not having so-called perfect posture, which we'll go into, causes pain.
Yeah. There have been quite a lot of research studies that you can look up trying to...
We should probably put some in the notes.
Yeah, we can put some in the notes.
We'll put some in the notes.
But there's so many different research papers going into studying this to say, okay, does posture increase... Does bad posture increase pain? Does good posture help reduce pain? And the overarching answer is no, there's really no correlation. There's no one perfect posture for anybody, and it just doesn't correlate to pain as a one-to-one ratio. No.
And I think the only thing, like we were talking earlier, is like someone with forward head, because that's going to put that strain on the... Obviously.
Yeah, there's some research to show that in terms of forward head posture, that there is some correlation between forward head posture and neck pain.
Mm-hmm. But not back pain, but neck
But
pain.
all the research pointing to posture and back pain, it just doesn't show a correlation.
No. And that's what we wanted to hit on, because the majority of clients that we get who have pain, it's going to be in their back. Usually it's in the lumbar, obviously. Yep. And they say, oh, well, I heard that, Pilates will help my posture, so that will help my pain, and I want better posture. I know we've all had that client that's like, oh, I saw a picture of myself, and my shoulders, I'm all like this, and I need to improve my posture.
Right. And the main thing is that people don't realize that when they say, I want to improve my posture, they're thinking of it as a static position of I stand rigidly straight, but posture is not static. Posture is dynamic. Posture is in movement.
Yeah. And that's what we teach in Pilates is dynamic alignment.
Yeah.
You're moving, and we're trying to get that body to be as aligned and as balanced as we can.
Yeah.
As you're moving.
And being able to learn how to find the stability and find that support within movement. Because our day is, or should be, made up of moments of movement.
Yeah. And I know, and we have clients this way, and I'm sure our listeners do too, where our clients are sitting at a desk all day, or maybe they're in sales and they're standing on concrete floors all day, or whatever it is. So yes, we do have that, but we all know as teachers, movement heals, so you should be moving throughout your day.
And one of the most interesting things is so let's say you set somebody up in a perfect ergonomic position at their desk. They are, quote, perfect. They're straight up and down. Their elbows are at 90. Their screen's at the right height for their head to be slightly dropped down.
Their knees, the hips, everything.
Everything's all measured perfect. And you tell them to stay there for 5 hours and have that, quote, perfect posture. They are, quote, perfect. They will still be in pain.
They will be in pain. Because it's this rigid, more of a rigid kind of having to hold yourself in this instead of being this, like we talked about, more of a dynamic.
More movement.
More movement.
And so one of the things I always tell my clients who ask me about this stuff is when they say, oh, well, how can I get this perfect posture? Or how should I be sitting at my desk?
How should I be standing?
Yeah, how should I be standing at my desk? Because that's also something now, too, the sit-to-stand desks.
We'll go into that.
Yeah. But really, the perfect posture, the perfect way to be is just movement, having moments of movement throughout the day. If you're sitting at your computer all day and you feel like, oh, it feels right to like lift my leg up over my other one, okay. If you want to, like some people
like
sit...
right now, I want to like, pop my butt.
Some people want to sit crisscross legs in their chair. I do that when I'm working on the computer sometimes, and then I get stiff, and then I move my legs down.
Yeah.
And so it's as long as you are moving when your body starts to feel stiff, and the moments of needing to fidget kind of tell you, oh, I need to move now. Or maybe I need to take a break and get out of my like computer or desk space and walk around a little bit. That really is much more important in terms of pain than the quote perfect posture.
And the other thing is like there is no, like we talked about, there is no perfect posture, and everybody's different, and the way that we are built is different. The way we move is different. Mm-hmm. And one thing a lot of people seem to think about with posture is, and back pain, is that if they improve kind of their abs and their core, that's going to also help with their posture and with their back pain. And there's no evidence that the core improves your back pain.
I mean, there's not. There's an overall, if you have an overall increase of health and fitness throughout the body, somebody starts to do more movement, they do more Pilates, they get overall in general stronger, they will probably feel a bit better. And you get maybe some more mobility in the body and more strength. You will feel better, but there's no magic. If my abs are strong, my back feels good.
Exactly. It's just not. But I think it really goes into the whole, like you just said, the full movement and body.
Yeah.
And finding that, like we talked about, dynamic alignment. And we chatted before we came on, it's like, you know, unless we're sitting at a desk, unless we're standing, whatever, but our alignment changes because we're moving a leg, we're reaching for something and grabbing something, we're walking, we're running, we're playing tennis. The alignment in your body the posture has to change.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, so if somebody says, how do I get better posture? Well, what's the context? Because if they're saying, if you're playing your tennis game and you're saying, oh, I need better posture, well, that's going to be different than if you're saying I'm sitting at my desk and I want perfect posture. So depending on what you're doing, the terrain changes under you, the body's moving. And so that's why posture is dynamic. Mm-hmm. The body needs to adapt and be able to adjust to changes.
Yeah. And that will help relieve pain.
Yeah. I mean, and there's so many people that are afraid of the idea of bad posture, where they're so afraid of slumping or like...
that they go the other direction.
Yeah. And they become very rigid and have this idea of guarding or bracing in the body. And there are studies to actually show this, that people that have back pain tend to have more habits of guarding.
Yep.
And they tend to have what you would consider the, quote, perfect posture. So maybe in their lifting, they're trying to lift something off the floor. They have that perfect, like, long, low back, bent knees, butt sticking out, and they're really rigid.
So they're very guarded in a lot of those muscles.
So when you actually teach those people to be able to feel confident slumping or rounding when they're sitting or lifting something, that actually will reduce that person's back pain.
Yeah. I mean, you can visually see it in people when they think, oh, shoulders back, shoulders down.
Yeah.
And that's like, ooh, everything just rigid. Yeah, rigid like a board. And that something's going to break.
Yeah.
It's like not good.
And that's where one of those myths of like shoulders down and back is considered good posture.
I think we had that in our cueing one, didn't we?
That was one of them. The miscuings. Yeah. And this idea of like down and back, like, okay, if somebody has their shoulders popped forward in front of them and they're caving the chest in, yeah, we can cue like opening the chest, rolling the shoulders open. But when people are afraid of moving their shoulders because they don't want to go into a, quote, bad posture, they actually are more rigid, they'll have more pain, and they're restricting their movement.
Which is, again, going to get them more injured, more in pain.
Yeah.
And I think there's, like we talked about in the cueing when we weren't even talking about posture, it was just cueing.
Just the general cue.
Just the general cueing. But if you think about posture and that rigid person, the verbiage is so important because, like, if you said that rigid person, if you say shoulders down and back, they're going to go,
yeah,
right? Instead of just saying, oh, open up your chest or let your shoulders fall into the mat, or so it's kind of this whole dynamic of not only are you like setting them up to go into that rigid by that cue, but also the visual of, down and back and
keeping it there.
And keeping it there is not,
It's not helpful. And I've had plenty of clients who are afraid of having bad posture. And so they do that, where they will lock in what they think is that good posture. But again, that then keeps you static. There's no way to keep that locked in and still be able to move and go about your day.
Yeah. And I think it's like, especially, and I really think with posture, people tend to just kind of think up in their shoulders and head and where they are there, instead of like, they're not looking at the full picture of what they think perfect posture. Because the minute you kind of do that back, I can guarantee you something's going on below that shouldn't be going on.
Well, other things throughout the kinetic chain will have to compensate.
Yeah.
So if you you can try it. If you throw your shoulders back and lock them down, then for me, immediately my mid-thoracic spine pops forward, my ribs flare open. Other things have to accommodate. Yeah. Some people might get a little forward head push, whatever it is.
Or even thrown back, So you
end up kind of more lordotic, or extended. And other things will compensate. And again,
like the guarding we talked about.
Yeah, and so that creates more guarding, and that creates more pain. And there's being able to talk to a client and teach them good posture is not static. We need to be able to lift the shoulders. It's not bad to lift the shoulders. It's not bad to slump. Sometimes it feels really good to slump.
Well, think about when you've been sitting, or you're having to be in this position, and then, we do it after every podcast, because we record 2 podcasts, and we're kind of sitting, and we're here, and the first thing we do is go, and just kind of move. And that's kind of what we have to remember, and our clients need to understand and feel that.
And they need to learn, because here we are movement professionals, so for us, we have a habit of listening to our bodies. So for our clients, to help them learn and to teach them how to listen to their bodies, where, okay, you're sitting at your desk for a long time and you're trying to maintain whatever you think this perfect posture is, but you start feeling stiff, you should move. You can move. You should move. And if it feels good to slump at your desk while you're working for a little while, that's okay. And then later you can straighten up, and then later you can move a leg, and that, whatever you need. And it just is important to keep movement.
And it's kind of almost like your brain saying, hey,
yeah,
we got to do something now, or you're going to be in pain.
Yeah, you're going to feel icky. and that is why I tell my clients, the need to fidget is your brain telling your body that you need a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got to get some movement going.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when you're at a movie. When you're at a movie and it's a long movie, and you're in your chair just yeah, it's like your brain going, I can't sit here anymore. I got to move. And I think that dynamic alignment is key. And it's what we teach in Pilates. That's the whole purpose. We don't stay still.
Yeah.
It's let's see what happens when this spring and this and this and this and this movement. You're standing and you're lying down and you're kneeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you work against a spring pulling you this way, finding still that that posture, but in that dynamic movement and getting pulled one way or the other. And there's the idea of when people get back sprains that they're I bent down to lift this thing. I must have not been in the perfect posture or the perfect lift position. But really, back sprains tend to happen from when the tissues are just not properly conditioned for the amount of load that they're being asked to do. Or maybe there's a really weird angle, when people are reaching around to their back seat to grab something with a little a purse or something.
So classic.
That tends to be a very common place to be injured. Now, does that mean you are in good or bad posture? No, it's just an awkward position with some external load that's being pulled. So it's really not that we're going to injure ourselves from a bad posture.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also, and I was thinking about this when we're talking about and that could go with the whole reaching back behind too. It's if we're not moving, like you said, in a right way, right? And someone reaches behind, usually what they do, they're like reaching and they're kind of more rigid and they're pulling. But in Pilates, and we're asking with all these different things, and like we talked about alignment changing. And so we talk about if you take someone and just make them stay in this position as they then move, it's the same thing like when they're out and about and it's like, oh, I've got to stay in this position and now I've got to move.
Yeah. But and you're
it has to change.
Stuck.
Because I feel like that reaching behind, because it's like, if you just turn and reach and then pull and you're not like, it's like, where's maybe some better movement?
Just learning how to, learning how to do that.
Although I don't think we should definitely reach behind and grab our purses. Cause
I mean,
for me, the shoulder issue just comes right into play.
For so many people. And it's like, there are just certain positions where it's like, it's probably just not good. Just not a good way to do that. Like, maybe get out of the car and grab your bag or whatever it is.
Or turn around.
Yeah. There are some better ways to move through something, right?
Yeah. And I think that's what Pilates is good for, is teaching that feeling of what it is to have that dynamic alignment and stability and be able to move in a way and have that body adapt.
Yeah, it's that adaptation, because when we do get injured or sprained from that load that we're not accustomed to or that angle we're not accustomed to, that's why Pilates is so helpful, because we do so many different angles and positions in all these
orientations to gravity,
weird
all
orientations.
Of that.
Yeah. So it really is helping adapt the body to be able to adapt outside to other weird positions we might find ourselves in.
Which could be a lot. And we kind of brought up that sitting for long periods of time and standing, but this whole like sit to stand desk that's like everyone's like, oh yeah, I have the sit to stand desk.
It's supposed to be a magic cure. So I won't have back pain anymore. And it's not the case. No, I mean, and I will say, so like I had a lot of back pain as a young dancer. That was my thing. When I started serving tables as a college student, and I was standing a lot more you're walking around, but it wasn't as much movement. Yeah. My back started hurting more. When I started first teaching in the studio, my back started hurting more. And so I realized I had to keep myself moving even as I was like talking to my customers or my clients.
Not just standing.
And also not just standing rigid in this perfect posture, because I was always told, coming from a ballet background, that I had, quote, perfect posture. So I would sit very erect and upright, very rigid, and I would stand in the same way, always very rigid. I actually taught myself how to slump more, because
it helps,
and that alleviated a lot of my pain, along with other things. But learning how to stand and adapt your standing however it feels better for you. So I would like step a foot forward, and then I would walk around the reformer and then stand with my other foot forward, changing it up. So it's still about that movement. But yeah, I mean, I'm a perfect example of what perfect posture does not alleviate your back pain.
Yeah, and I think this whole, because like we were talking about you're standing a lot, or even those people that sit a lot, but just changing the position. It doesn't mean you sit and then go to stand and it's just going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
But that whole, like you said, even the simple thing of one foot going forward and shifting this way or this way, or
very simple
or walking.
Changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking, like, some people will say when they're on, like, a work call or something, they'll use, when they're on their headset or phone, they'll pace around. And that gives the body a break from either sitting or standing. And little things like that. You're bringing the movement into the posture.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to, like, this perfect posture, and I know that our clients hear it all the time in the media or on TV or whatever it is. Oh, if I have to have perfect posture. Or even like the generations before us that were taught you sit up straight.
Yeah, you have a book on your head.
Book on your head. I remember that. I mean, my mom, she took us to some like we're from the South. So it's like some like
refinement school.
Refinement kind of thing my brother and I had to go to. And it was like walk with the book on your head and sit up straight. And I think that's been drilled into a lot of people. And then as we move, things change and shift or whatever. And they think, oh, no, I have to be like this. This is what I've been told.
Yeah. And you just made me think of like postures on the reformer when, let's say we're doing like hug a tree or something. And we are trying to sit tall while you're working against the feedback from the springs. But the idea is not to maintain a rigid spine there.
Right.
You're lifting, so you're working the muscles, but as you're moving the arms, the body is adapting.
Yeah,
right?
And that's just it. And I think that's a really good point with, as a teacher, our visual, because I know I teach it and you teach it. With the hug a tree, it's like they're adapting. So things are going to change and shift.
Yeah.
And so as the arms go forward, it's like they're going to shift back. Or if this happens, this is going to shift. Or they're going to realize, oh, I need to engage here and shift more this way. It's not going to be this like
you're not
rigid as the arms move.
Yeah.
And then like we talked about, the shoulders are going to move.
Shoulders have to move.
The shoulders have to move. Otherwise, it's this, again, rigid, restricted movement.
Yeah.
But I think that's really the key. If you even take hug a tree, but move it outside into like our walking or whatever, it's like our body is shifting and adapting as we walk down the street.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the terrain changes and suddenly there's a step down or cobblestones or, there's different changes in what we're walking on. And so our pelvis will shift.
It has to.
It has to. Like as you step down, okay, one hip drops down and then, it's moving. And I think in the studio, we tend, like a lot of people will teach certain exercises without any reciprocal movement. And so I'm thinking of like maybe side-lying leg movements.
Oh, yeah, where you're just
side
rigid.
kicks or like single leg circles.
Yeah.
And there's variations to do that where you're working with the person, where you're trying to get them to find stability everywhere else. But they're like really, as they're moving, you want them to find where they need to move in opposition to counter.
That counter, yeah.
To find the dynamic stability.
Because I had, I was doing a workshop once, and we were talking actually about the side kicks. And it's kind of like, well, if you picture someone walking, their pelvis moves when they walk. It has to.
And the opposite arm swings.
And their chest might move. It depends on the person. The trunk rotates. Yep. And that's what we do in side kicks.
Yeah.
It's like it's walking. It's like the leg coming forward, the leg going back, and the body kind of adapting, and instead of being this rigid, like,
Yeah, where the whole rest of the body is supposed to be still. And only the one leg's like moving through.
And that never felt good to me.
It doesn't. It's very stuck.
Yeah. And I feel like giving that, like we talked about, that dynamic alignment is movement. And everyone, what do they say? Oh, it feels so good.
Yep.
It feels so good to move like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that being said, if somebody really cannot find their placement and they're flopping all over the place, of course we're going to give a cue and try to help them find their refinement. But in general, like if you try to walk just from your legs, don't let your trunk move and don't let your arms move.
That's a good place.
Not going to feel good. And that the spine will actually become very rigid and the posture muscles will get that bracing.
Yeah.
That will not feel good.
Yeah, it won't. And it's like when you're talking about stability, it's like, it's like you could give that cue of like maybe they're like hypermobile and they're going woo, woo, woo. And it's like, oh, that's great. As you kick forward, can the top of that hip come more towards me? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, because they're not going in this like
huge range.
So it's like you can give these cues that allow them to feel it, to get that, but still have them moving and that dynamic alignment and stability all together, which is what we teach.
Yeah, whole purpose of Pilates. But overall, I mean, there's just no research that has found a strong correlation between perfect posture and back pain. And there's no single correct posture, and there's no perfect posture.
No. And I think that kind of goes to when people say, oh, I heard Pilates will help my back pain. It may.
Because
we're going into that dynamic alignment. We're moving.
Yeah.
We're teaching the body how to do this. So yeah, maybe it will relieve the back pain, but it's not because their posture's suddenly perfect.
Yeah.
Or that their ab strength happened. Mm-hmm. Or whatever it is. It's because of everything we've been talking about.
All of that. The dynamic movement.
All together.
Mobility, stability, full body movement, and just kind of learning about your own body.
Yeah.
Learning to read those body cues.
And learning, oh, my brain is saying, I need to move.
My brain and body are telling me to move right now.
I got to get up. But that was, yeah. I feel like hopefully no one's mind was blown. They're like, wait, what?
And you can look up, because these are very common myths about posture.
Yes.
So you can actually look up posture and back pain, and there's tons of accessible articles that are both like pop articles, but also like actual research that talks about this. And it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think it can help teachers who have been taught these myths that you have to be rigid or stable and super still.
Well, and also to give you the ability to, when that client comes in and says, well, I was told this, like, well, actually, and allow the client to see this article or allow the client to understand, scientific proof shows.
Especially for the clients who are afraid of that, quote, bad posture, it can be very helpful to see some of these articles so they can start to alleviate that fear of those certain postures so that just alleviating that fear can actually help release some back pain.
Yeah, because they're not going to be so rigid all the time. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, who's our sponsor?
Our sponsor is dog shelters.
Any dog shelter. We actually have, look at him, he's sound asleep.
He's
Mr.
so
Bates
asleep.
is like asleep in his little dog bed. He's out. But yeah, we were talking about who our sponsor was, and we can't pick one shelter because we're in LA and you guys might be somewhere else.
Wherever you are. But, adopt.
Or even support. Like we gave, when we lost McKinley last summer, we had a bunch of her stuff and dog food and stuff, so we donated that to shelters. So yeah, just kind of they're overflowing. They need homes.
Yeah, we always like to donate and help the shelters get food and support the dogs till they can be adopted.
Yeah, because if we go there, we would adopt them all.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Our husbands would be like, no.
No. It's always fun to have a puppy in the Pilates studio.
Yeah. We have one today. He's asleep. But anyway, that was season 5, episode 13, Posture and Pain. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok.
Our website, PilatesChicks.com.
YouTube. We're
Look it up.
all over. And also, what was my point?
You can send us messages if you have
That was my point.
if you have any questions or want follow up on any of the topics.
Yeah. Or even, and these were like, we've been doing it lately where we put up on Instagram kind of 4 topics and let people comment to pick, and these were the 2 they picked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yay. It was fun.
Let us know if you have questions.
Yeah. Or you want to hear something. We're always game.
Yep.
Yeah. Bye.
See you next time.
Bye.